Join with Tufik Baklini, the president of IDC, and the rest of the IDC team in thanking USCIRF for its work, for this report, and all that it's done in the years leading up until the release of this report. USCIRF, you mentioned former Congressman Frank Wolf, and I'm reminded of sort of the wisdom that he and other framers of this act, the International Religious Freedom Act, brought forward, which is to establish an office at the State Department, to establish USCIRF, which is partially administration, partially Congress, certainly bipartisan nature, expert community, and then also inviting the civil society, American civil society, groups like In Defense of Christians, to be a robust part of this discussion, not some tucked away office, isolated and insulated from public concern, but rather part of kind of a national discourse on international religious freedom. And I think it's worked just the way it should. Now, the outcome in any given instance may not be to everyone's liking, but that's just the nature of these sorts of things. But certainly, very high marks for USCIRF and for IDC for being such a robust part of this discussion. Thank you to Philippe. He's a powerful voice, a moral compass on issues. Your remarks about the indivisibility of human rights from the perspective of Amnesty International is very powerful, very, very powerful idea that, we're not here. No one is going to rank order the rights of humans, right? And that's really so powerful and very important message, needs to be stressed over and over again. And thank you, Rich, for your leadership. Having thanked and shared our gratitude on so many levels, I just want to touch on Azerbaijan and then Turkey. We would argue that there are grounds in the report itself for Azerbaijan to be designated a country of particular concern. The bombing of churches during the war that they launched last September against the indigenous Armenian population of Artsakh, that alone should get them CPC status. The last overseas trip I took before this whole virus was actually to Nagorno-Karabakh, to this indigenous part of the Armenian homeland. And one of the most meaningful part of my visit, I recall, was a visit to a monastery, Dadivank, which is literally a holy site first established by a student of Saint Thaddeus, of the apostle Thaddeus, who preached in Armenia in the first century. His student Dadi set up this monastery. It's called Dadivank, and we lit candles there. We said prayers there. But that and many other hundreds of other Armenian holy sites, Christian sites, are now under the control of Azerbaijan, and they are making a concerted effort, not a hidden effort, but an open, unapologetic effort to destroy what's known as the epigraphic legacy, history of the Armenian presence in those lands, literally taking chisels and going to each church and chipping off the Armenian letters, chipping off the crosses. They'll make concessions in certain cases that certain buildings are Christian, but not Armenian, holy sites, which is, is laughable from a historical perspective. The historians going back to ancient times have been writing about Armenians in that part of the world, and certainly the history of Armenian Christianity is deeply, deeply rooted there. So the bombing of churches, the desecration of holy sites, there was no mention whatsoever. There are things that weren't mentioned that, if they were mentioned, would make the case more powerful, which is the 28,000 Armenian khachkars, which are these holy sacred crosses, were demolished over the course of the last 15 years. They were bulldozed into the Arax River and then paved over. And this was all done on video, captured on video, brought forth into the public domain. And Azerbaijan has denied that to this day. There's even now, we read this week about a theme park that was created in Baku, the capital of Azerbaijan, where you can go and mock and ridicule the mannequins dressed as Armenians because we're somehow different, and really just immensely discriminatory against Armenians on the basis of their faith, on the basis of their religion, on the basis of their presence on their historical homeland. I read in the report a dissenting view that made the case that Azerbaijan didn't even belong on the special watch list. And one of the points that was raised was, well, this is a country in which Shia and Sunni can pray together. I'm sure somebody can make an argument that in 1930s Germany, that Catholics and Lutherans could pray together, and maybe that's certainly a good thing that they can do so, but does not detract in any way from the fact that Jews and Slavs and gays and others were massacred outright in the Holocaust. It's a very, very sort of very weak defense of Azerbaijan's toleration, that because some tolerance exists, it's a mostly tolerant country. The fact of the matter is, you would have to look very far, very wide to find a state-sponsored demonization of an ethnic or religious group. You'd have to look very hard and very far to find sort of a state that demonizes people in such a toxic fashion. So from our view, it was a no-brainer that they would get CPC, but unfortunately not. The one very encouraging part of the recommendations were funding through USAID for the restoration, the preservation, the protection of holy sites throughout the region. That would be a very, very constructive step. So Azerbaijan missed opportunity. I hope that with a more careful review that the Commission will do the right thing next year. On IDC, we would echo, in terms of Turkey, we would echo IDC's views on Turkey meriting CDC status. We are seeing an open, unapologetic effort by the Erdogan government to eradicate, and this is a phrase that I know in the English translation, but it was uttered in Turkish, to eradicate the remnants of the sword, which is a phrase that the Turks have used for decades to describe the ones that they didn't get around to killing in 1915. They got most of them. Those who weren't killed were exiled, but there are a few around, and they're not really worth killing, but we'll get to it one day. That conception of Armenians and Christians, Assyrians, Maronites, Chaldeans, Assyrians, Syriacs, and others, that conception of these individuals as remnants of the sword, I believe now extends to Armenia itself, to the Armenian homeland itself. And if you look at the map, you have a very powerful Turkey here and a very powerful Azerbaijan here, and the small Armenia in the middle, and a chunk of it was stolen last fall, and they're looking to finish the rest. Aliyev just this morning talked about forcing his way through southern Armenia to create a land bridge between Turkey and Azerbaijan. A threat against a sovereign nation, a member of the UN, threatening another member of the UN. A chance to turn this around is this Saturday, when the nation will mark Armenian Genocide Remembrance Day. We're looking to President Biden to do the right thing, to honor his own Senate record, to honor the American historical record, to act in accord with the House and Senate, which have overwhelmingly passed resolutions on this front. Our hope, and this extends, I think, more broadly, Stephen, to the IDC's sort of realm of or domain of activity. Our hope is that an America that takes a strong stands on the right side of the Armenian genocide, of the Christian genocide of the First World War, will also be an America that's more willing to take a moral stand on these issues, as opposed to bartering them away, as opposed to bartering Tibet with China, or bartering, every manner of human rights abuse around the world. We'll say this, we won't say that, as part of some geopolitical calculation. If we can, wrest the American response to atrocities, to persecution, to genocide, if we can wrest it away above the realm of politics, I think we'll have done a great service, not just for America, but for vulnerable populations, and I think all the world. So with that, thanks very much.